Welcome back to Face the State. I'm Ariana Bennett. Thank you for keeping it here. We are coming up on 10 years since voters in Washoe County passed WC1 on the ballot, dedicating a small portion of sales tax money to school capital needs. Since then, it has been a flurry of renovations and new school buildings countywide. So what's next in the pipeline, and will that money eventually dry up? Washoe County School District Chief Operating Officer Adam Searcy is here with me to talk about that. Adam, thank you as always for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's a fun topic. I cannot believe it's been almost a decade since that version of WC1 passed. Since then, it's had a massive impact on Washoe County.
Oh, massive impact. We've been able to fund all these desperately needed new school construction projects and hundreds of millions of dollars of repair and maintenance to our existing schools. Today, we've opened 10 new schools across our district since really 2019, and major modernizations and expansions to 5 additional ones.
Yeah, and some of this stuff is like hugely needed in terms of relieving overcrowding, putting single point entry into schools for safety reasons, a lot of stuff like that.
All of those points, relieving overcrowding really was the primary driver for the additional funding need, the WC1 ballot measure, but also the pent-up maintenance needs as well. So we've largely eradicated overcrowding. You may remember, 2015 and prior, there were multi-track year-round class schedules. So really a negative impact on the learning experience. And so when we say, we've been on a building spree, imagine the impacts on the tens of thousands of students who are just experiencing that improved environment and the improved academic experience through this investment.
Now, did that easing of the overcrowding problem, which by the way is pretty spectacular to be able to say it's over, or mostly over, did that have any impact on the decision to allow this new variant system, the school of choice system that you have now? Like you can do that now because the schools aren't completely jam-packed?
To a degree, certainly if a school's already full, we can't, we don't allow additional students to enroll in it. So it's made that more of an option, but to a different extent, we've always really had that opportunity for students to enroll in different schools that best suit their needs.
This just changed the way it's done?
Basically.
Okay. So now that, the overcrowding crisis is over, we're in a different phase of things where we're actually looking at closing schools that are, they don't have enough attendance. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so these schools, take a number of years to construct, plan, design, construct. As I said, we've built a number of new schools, redistributed the enrollment so there's, ideal enrollment levels everywhere. Through this same period of time, we've begun to see declining birth rates across our county. So fewer humans being born in Washoe County, regardless of population growth, despite the fact that people are moving into our community, they're just having fewer children, therefore fewer students. So really around 2022, we began comprehensively studying and planning with our community how best to invest these capital revenue streams into all of our schools. It really goes back to the ballot measure itself. There were a number of new schools that were contemplated, a new high school at Wild Creek, it was called at the time, a new middle school at Arrow Creek, a new CTE academy that is now Debbie Smith CTE High School. But in that ballot measure, it also included a line item called core school investments at the time, really a nod to our existing schools. We're going to build all these schools, but there's still, 75 or 85 schools across the district that are 20, 40, 60 years old. What are we going to do about them as well? And that's what this 2023 plan includes, basically replacement, modernization, or repurposing of every school in the district.
Okay, so what are the big ones coming down the pipeline now that you're in this new phase?
So next school year, we expect to open the first of our FMP, we call it Facility Modernization Plan, FMP projects. At Stead Elementary School, they're going to get a brand new school up there, replacing the 67-year-old Stead Elementary School on a busy arterial roadway. And Vaughn If any of you are familiar with, Vassar Street and Vaughn, it's one of our oldest schools, serving a community that is desperately in need of that type of investment. And we're going to be proud to open both of those schools next school year, and there's quite a few others in the works as we speak.
Okay, and then which ones are top of the chopping block for being closed?
So again, with that declining enrollment, we're really looking at our entire school portfolio and looking at which ones are the oldest and need the greatest or the most appropriate types of investment, and then where do we move our resources to? We want a certain number, a concentration of students and adults in a building to provide the most efficient services and really the best environment. In that case, some of our schools, they're small, their buildings are antiquated, and it makes more sense to kind of migrate where our buildings are and where our students are. So the board has approved the repurposing or closure of 6 elementary schools over the next 3 school years. STED, as I mentioned, is just being replaced. So the old one will close and the new one will open. But in 27-28 and in 28-29, we've got 5 additional ones, starting with Kate Smith over in Sparks, if you're familiar with that old one. Veterans Memorial in Reno, also a very special old small school. We've got Roger Corbett, and then Smithridge Elementary School and Dodson are slated for 28-29. Again, working hard to create change that will be a positive impact for the students and staff, while also looking to the community, looking to our partners, both agencies, nonprofits, and the private sector, on how we might reactivate those properties in a way that is a benefit to the community that they've served, for generations, really.
Okay, so within this conversation of all right, we're past the overcrowding crisis, we're seeing a lower birth rate necessitating fewer schools, we've built all these new schools. Is there an argument, or are you anticipating one, of, well, we don't need WC1's funding revenue or funding source anymore because we did it?
Well, we've accomplished great things in partnership with our community, but the need never sleeps. As much as time flies and we feel like we've opened 10 new schools and accomplished these things, we're still not moving fast enough. So, if we were to slow down on our ability to meet those needs in terms of funding resources, we would just find ourselves falling that much further and further behind. And, probably someday be talking about closing schools because the heating and air conditioning doesn't work completely and we have no means to replace it. So it's really not a place that we ever want to go back to, and we're going to keep aggressively moving forward to bring these positive changes to our community.
Now, this funding source doesn't sunset. It's written into the law that
Right.
voters passed. So, unless they passed a new one to take it away, that is the way that it is going to be. And I think if you're looking at this from the perspective of a lot of rural school districts right now, they probably could not be more jealous of you, because they're dealing with a lot of capital needs problems and they do not have the funding source to make fixes to their old, crumbling down, aging, in some cases unsafe schools.
Yeah, we certainly find ourselves in an enviable position through the foresight and courage of the many people that brought this to passage. I think it's always important to mention that the school board actually approved what's known as the Capital Funding Protection Committee. So it's a committee made up of 2 elected officials from Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, as well as 5 volunteer citizens. And all of the expenditures of these funds, WC1 funds, are required to be approved by that public body, as well as our board of trustees. So we take the trust and the transparency super seriously when it comes to these funds, but at the same time are continuing to put projects forward that are informed by the community to invest not only our tax dollars into our community, but really into the lives and the education of our children.
And that is a big piece of what got it over the line to begin with 10 years ago, because the initiative had come up a couple times before and failed. It didn't have enough support both in the legislature and on the ballot prior, but 2016 finally got it through, and I think it was largely because of those accountability measures got a lot of people on board who had previously not been in support. And I know that the audits that have been done of the project so far have shown that it's been a good use of the funds.
That transparency, that accountability is super important, and also broadening the message in terms of the impact that our public schools and the environments that the students are served within, how much of an impact that has on the fabric of our community. You know, the COVID pandemic was so disruptive for so many different sectors of our society, but you know, we, I think, have a renewed appreciation for the value and importance of in-person public education.
Yeah.
And as our community makes investments in that area, I think it ripples across our economy and affects so many people who don't have school-age children, perhaps, but for whom this is an important issue.
All right. Well, we have a little less than a minute left, so I'm maybe switching gears here, but what are you most excited about just going into 2026?
Well, I mentioned the Debbie Smith CTE Academy. Let me tell you, that is off to a wildly successful start here in this school year. Next school year, I'm really excited to open Vaughn Middle School. Stead's going to be special as well, but Vaughn has a lot of associated change for that neighborhood that is so desperately needed, and we're really excited to bring that type of a project to that community.
Okay, and if people want to read more about all these projects, it's all online. Really quickly, where can they find it?
Just start with washoeschools.net and weave your way there.
There's I think it says it's a 2023 capital projects, somewhere around there. You click on it, that's where I got to it. But
Yep.
You can read about everything, and so it's super interesting. All right, Adam, thank you so much, as always, for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that is it for this episode of Face the State. But for more information or to see past episodes, you can head to our website, it's 2news.com. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you next week.